Cost, for those of you who maybe have not purchased the system yet, it's the grant that I wrote, $2,500 for 50 clickers, the receiver, the maintenance, and then future years it's $500 if you want to do that.
And we did decide this round to go with radio frequency and not infrared for a lot of reasons. And infrared, it is a line of sight technology. And in other classrooms where we were using it, large classrooms, I'd have my football players blocking my very small people in the back. And so those people, and that's why we were trying to get height up, because we were trying to work with facilities and having some permanency for these classrooms so that we weren't having to use microphone stands. But then we were fortunate that the administration realized that we needed to change over from infrared to radio frequencies so that we didn't have to worry about the line of sight. It's been a huge blessing. It's one less thing that we have to mess with for those who still check out the system that don't have a dedicated classroom.
Yeah. And then the last part is, technology isn't perfect, as I mentioned earlier. Here I was in this multi-collaborative, outstanding media classroom, and there was so much going on in that computer that we didn't have room for TurningPoint. And we asked them, we said, well, can we have TurningPoint installed on the desktop? Well, no, and then we got into some issues with that. I tried to stay out of the politics of IT and cats and Lisa and all that, but as an instructor, I was like, forget it, we'll just not do it. I also, in the classroom, had experienced a problem, with the channels one of the times that I used it, and I didn't understand the channels. I knew my side of developing it, but I ran into an implementation side problem. You do have clickers that the batteries go dead, and so you got to, plan for that. The students are going, hey, mine's not working, and I think as I've used it more and more, I get more comfortable, and I'm like, oh, it's okay. Here, let me just trade it out. But at first, I was like, oh, I don't know why your clicker's not working. Let me see. And I've settled down, and now I'm okay, whatever. I've also ran into problems at a conference I was at and doing a similar presentation to this last year. TurningPoint actually came and supported me, so they sent one of their salespeople. I was talking to a group of management faculty nationwide. I ran it before the session on a laptop, checked it. I was like, okay, everything's working. This is good. Got into the room, plugged in the laptop to the overhead projector directly, totally crashed the system. Could not get TurningPoint to run, but it was my laptop because instead of running it through, receivers and boxes, and I'm not a computer IT person by any means, but as soon as I unplugged the overhead projector, when it was plugged in directly to the back of the laptop, I didn't have any problem. TurningPoint ran fine. But I do run into some conflicts, and I have run into using my remote mouse, using an overhead projector directly tied into the laptop, and the TurningPoint system all at the same time. Could just be my laptop, and I need to justify buying a new one. So maybe I'll try that the next round of technology support. So that is, I guess that's the summary of my comments. And Lisa, if you have any summary points to make.
I think Melody did a wonderful job, and yes, she was the new faculty. Some of our senior faculty have adopted the same tool in a variety of classroom sizes, anywhere from 30 up to 60. And in there, again, when we bump over that 50 magic number, then we have to use one receiver and rekey some of our, much like what we're doing today, we have to change channel. But overall, I think the immediacy of the feedback and the students feeling engaged, that whole gaming aspect with the classroom, again, multiple formats to get the learning content, and the students really have appreciated that type of involvement, and they do feel it's valuable from what we can see. And I know Melody, she still grabs the data down, and we're hopeful to do this with more and more faculty to make it more of a collaborative environment. But any questions?
Maybe this isn't the right question for this type of session, but I just had a thought. Okay. This little test could be dangerous. Say you make a presentation using TurningPoint, and then I'm going to take that presentation somewhere and run it where there is not TurningPoint on the machine. I don't want to do the surveys or whatever. I just want to make this presentation to this group of people. Is that PowerPoint going to run?
Yeah, it does. That's essentially what I did in the multi-collaborative room, was I just ran the same exact program, and it just came up as a PowerPoint slide, normal.
Yeah, that's what made me think of that when you said that.
Yeah. And I literally went from one classroom and walked across the hall and used this other classroom an hour apart, and so I used it as a TurningPoint system in one room, and I didn't have to do anything different. It wasn't a different PowerPoint system. It just shows up as you kind of get 100% you get a funny grid that it shows up, but. you get past it.
When you click to go to the survey,
Yeah.
I mean, or the
Yeah.
results of the survey.
It still tries to get the data, and it will still give you the time lag to, like,
Okay.
here's the question, then you click again, and it'll say, here's your response, and you get 100% of a default answer.
Okay.
And then you just skip over, and you're, okay, well, moving on. The other issue that I forgot to mention was when I did the review session in the lecture auditorium, we had a problem, and I didn't realize it, but another faculty member was sitting in the back. Students pulled out their phones and were cameraing because in the auditorium the screen is huge, and so they could sit there and they were just sitting there phoning, getting picture, camera phoning every question. And so afterwards, this faculty member came to me and said, what is your policy on that? I said, what are you talking about? When I do a 30 or 40 student, yes, they sit down and maybe a couple of them will write it down. That's another reason why the timer is very short, is I don't want them to write every question down. They're not learning then and thinking about it. So that's something we ran into. And I told the person, I said, I don't really care. If they want to try to write the question down, if they want to camera it, they're getting 20%. They're actually maybe going to sit down and review them again. But that is something I think each faculty member needs to think about. The students' technology is faster than ours, or keeping up with ours. I never even thought about such a thing. But she said, oh yeah, they were, especially in the back, they were just whipping out their cameras, just click, and getting every question you put up there. So it's another reason why you shouldn't put your exam on the review. Other questions? Okay. Thank you for coming to our presentation.